welcome to today's show. Our children, their safety. We are so sorry for the technical hitches that has been going on, and we hope that you will bear with us as we try to sort this out. Our topic for today is, what do you think social services are there for, and how do you feel about them? We have had a lot of controversial, not just for us, I mean, since social services was created till now, parents have different knowledge, awareness about social services. Some are not happy with the services that children's services provide or social services provide. Others are happy with the services that they receive or have heard about social services. Others do not know what social services do. So for today, we're just trying to raise awareness around social services so then people can understand what social services are there for, what they do. However, it is rather unfortunate that a lot of the information that we hear about is on social media, and social media doesn't portray social services in a good way. And that is where I can say a lot of people know about social services. So if media can change their narration about social services to depict the true image of it, then it would change the idea, the knowledge that people have about social services. I'm not here to say that social services as a whole is perfect. No, it's an evolving profession from when it started several years ago in the 19th century. And because other legislation policies are evolving, social services are also evolving to meet up with the times. So some of the things that were considered okay or ethically approved in the 19th century, today it is not. So social services are improving as well to keep up to date with the evolution. Peggy, have you been able to?
Yes, I have been able
Share?
to but I've shared, but for some reason it is echoing at my end. So it's echoing at my end. I don't know whether I've got my Zoom and my Facebook open.
So what you need to do is mute your Facebook. When you mute your Facebook, then it'll be okay.
Okay, let me just. I don't want to close. If I close,
Yeah.
All right.
You need to
So
switch screen. Yeah.
I'll need to switch screen. Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you on the screen. Yeah. On the Zoom screen, though.
On the Zoom screen, but then I can't see you. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see me now? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
When you are switching
Yes.
screens.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how to. You want me to? Well, you're on the screen, but that's fine. But I don't want to touch something that is going to cause a disaster after all the glitches that we've had. So since I can't see the Facebook now, so I'm sure you might be seeing Facebook. Can you see the Facebook?
Yeah, but it's not there yet.
It's not there yet.
Which Facebook is it?
I've shared with Peggy Barre.
Yeah,
My main.
I'm on that, but it's not showing. Oh
It's
yeah.
not showing there.
Yeah, it's come up now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I feel like because we're conscious of time, so you're gonna have to maybe you can okay, yes, I can see the Facebook now. So maybe what we'll do is that while we wait maybe for a few people to join, let us share. Let's just take the next 1 minute or so and share that link with our contacts. And then we can now
Yeah.
copy link. Just gonna share it with my own contact, and then we can now just continue with the conversation. Mm, okay.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, guys, but it just does what it does.
absolutely, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. It's technology. We're learning as we go.
We thought that we had sorted out everything, but again,
Yeah, I'm just sharing with my
it's still messing
contact.
about. Let me. We will get there at the end.
Yeah, we're just sharing with a few people now, and then we going to have a discussion what we're having today. Right.
Yeah.
Oops. 13. Okay.
And if for one reason or the other you are unable to watch this with us because of the difficulties that we've been having, and follow the link after and watch
Mhm.
everything. And if you have any contributions, just type in and we'll get back to you. Or
Yeah. So, okay, I've shared now with a few people. So what we can do, Nelly, we can now we can just be having a conversation as people are joining us, and then maybe when they ask any question, we can step in to kind of answer the question that they ask.
okay, so children's services, we have lots and lots of information. Some of the information are exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
You are on mute.
Can you hear me?
I couldn't hear you then.
Okay. No, I wasn't speaking.
Okay. Okay, I think because of time, let's just carry on. So, key reasons why social services was created. So, if we go back in the history of social services, it goes back to the 19th century during the revolution period. And social services started with charities and churches to take care of the poor. So basically, it was to support the poor. That's the basis of social services, and it still continues till today. Not just the poor, but those who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So that continues till today. But there is a difference from the practice that it started in the 19th century and now. It is evolving because as things are changing, they are changing and improving on their practices as well. So some information that people have now are not reflecting social services at this time. They are still dating back to the 19th century when
Mm-hmm.
the practice there was really different. This probably contributes to some of the misinformation that people have about social services because they might not have noticed the changes, the improvements that have been made throughout decades and many, many years now.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because there are stories that people have just been hearing and not actually being involved with or in the process. Because if you get involved with the process, a lot of the things are being explained to you so that you know what to expect, you
Mm-hmm.
know what to do as a parent or as a family person. You are always kept informed. However, sometimes I don't know if it's out of fear, which probably I think is out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes become really defensive and they don't really understand what the processes are, even though it's been explained to them. Though, on the other hand, sometimes professionals use a lot of professional jargon because they use it all the time. They assume that families or the people they work with understand the language. And
Mm.
because people see social workers as authority figures, probably they just accept or agree and sign whatever document they have to sign without necessarily understanding the content of what they are signing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you might be surprised when things come up and social worker says, but you signed for that, when
Mm-hmm.
actually they didn't understand what they were signing for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That that really make a lot of sense, Nelly, because if you want to look at the origin of social services, it is stemmed with poverty. It's stemmed with the needy, the community
Yeah.
that needed support. And you said something there that is really, really profound. People who, social workers who come into the profession, especially the ones that maybe they are not adapting to change. Their mindset is more focused on the underlying objective. I don't know the history of the social service, because they link it to poverty, they link it to parents who are like struggling families. Some of these social services, I think they do have still that mindset that families who are struggling well, we're going to look at some of the myth, which I think this falls in under one of the myth of social services. I mean, of some of the myth are about social services. So I feel that this has made some parents to feel that, because they are poor, or because they come from the poorer background or poorer communities, that is why they are susceptible to social service involvement in their families. And some of these social services, especially the ones that are not evolving with the new regulations and new policies around social work, some of them also, I do feel that they do have that mindset of, you know what, because you're a poor family or because you're a struggling family, that is why maybe we have to be more involved with your children. I don't know if that makes sense.
I, I,
That poverty
I think
mindset.
you've said some things there that are controversial
Mm,
be, because there's
yeah.
the conception that social services. So there's the conception that social services are involved only with families from poorer backgrounds, but that is not true because social services are out there to protect the vulnerable in our communities.
Mm,
So, though majority of the population that get involved with social services are those from poor backgrounds, but there are some who are wealthy from the wealthy background, the rich backgrounds that are also involved. And like before you become a social worker, we study a variety of things like social policies, updated legislation, because social workers work with the policies, the legislation, the guidance that are put in
Mhm.
place. So social workers are fully aware of the updated policies, procedures, and regulations that they need to follow.
Yeah.
But what I talked about, that I said it was controversial from what you said, is people who talk about social services and not necessarily the social workers, because the social workers are aware of. However,
Mm-hmm.
social work is very, very risk averse. They focus a lot on the risks, which
Yeah.
probably would go to, like what you were saying, that poorer parents or people from poorer background might think that because they are involved with social services, they'll always be involved with it. The thing is, social workers are out there to look for the risks,
Mm-hmm.
to look for the risk. And imagine if a family have been living a particular lifestyle, to them, that's in it. But then if a social worker comes in, they straight away identify many different risks that the parents do not see. So if the social worker identifies that that family lifestyle might impact or is affecting the child's growth, development, and things like that, it will be really, really difficult for that parent to accept, because that's the lifestyle they've always had. But then
Mm-hmm.
the social worker will be focused that from what they are seeing, from the research they have, they know they are fully aware that that lifestyle will significantly impact this child. And in a way, that's why parents will think that because they're from a poorer background, social services will not leave them. So it's rather is because the parents do not see any risk.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah,
Yeah,
what you actually saying is right, because like they always say, as a parent, when you're in that your environment, of course, everything that we do in our eyes will seem right. Because again, as parents, we have a justification for whatever thing we do. We don't just do anything for doing sake. If we scream, if we do anything, there will be a reason behind that thing. And sometimes from the standpoint from where we are looking, the angle where we are looking at, everything is fine. Everything is normal. But then when somebody from the outside begins to focus a lens on that family, they begin to see certain things that are not right. And of course, like you say, it's just obvious, as humans, we will need to defend. We will have to be defensive. And we'll have to and I feel that, Nelly, that is actually where that sometimes the problem starts, where there is that denial. As parents, there's that denial, because we're denying that no, we haven't done anything wrong. As far as I'm concerned, I was just disciplining that child. So this is where it gets tricky. Where do you find that balance? Because again, and then because we're defensive, and then the social services, they're looking from their own point of professionalism, and they're saying that I can see something wrong in this. But then we are looking from parental point of view and saying no, there is nothing wrong in this. And that is where that conflict begins. Which again, that is where I don't
yeah,
how do we how do
that's
we
true.
handle that initial phase, like, if you get what I mean.
Okay, so yes, there it comes down to communication.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to communication and education.
Yeah.
So, as a social worker, we explain, I mean, using everyday simple language to really explain, to make sure that the family or the person we are working with understands whatever we are explaining. So that is where the explanation, the conversation, and the education comes in. Because
Mm.
parents, like we are talking about, parents have that lifestyle. They don't know anything different. They will smack the child and say, I just wanted to discipline the child. But social services do not accept smacking because of the impact. Research has shown that physical chastisement doesn't help discipline a child. Instead, it causes more harm to the child because the child develops fear. The child cannot express themselves. Already, besides the beating, which is physical, there's also the psychological and the emotional impact that has on the child. So it's for social workers now to educate say the person who smacked the child, that this is having an impact on the child. While we are on this physical chastisement, I'll just talk about a case that I have worked on. And father, this father smacked the child. This child was just 4 years old. When this father smacked the child, immediately he realized that he did something wrong. He rang the child's mother, who was at work, that this is what he had done. Because that was the second time this father had smacked the child. The mother was like, no, this is not right. She rang the police on this man. So that's on the partner. So she got home, the police got home, took this man to the police station,
Mm.
and he gave a statement, and the man had to leave the property because he was deemed as a risk to his children, to his wife or partner.
Mm.
And when the case was allocated to me, I had to do work with this man. So I was frank and honest.
Yeah.
I was specifying and talking all the time about the smacking, because that was a reason children's services became involved and there was a police investigation. So I kept on reminding this man, and this man said yes, he knew that he was struggling, and he was very thankful that the partner rang the police on him, because probably if she didn't do that, he could have been postponing that, that he will look for help at some point later on. But since
Mm-hmm.
things happened the way they did, he had to ground himself and look for help for himself.
For help.
So I did
Mm.
referrals to many different places, and he did he did he engaged with support around parenting,
Mm-hmm.
and also about his own, because he struggled with anger, and he acknowledged that with me, that he struggles with anger. And the case was open for less than we expected, because the case was open for 6 months.
Mm.
And this person, this man was a completely different person, and even his interaction with the partner and the children was different. Like all the stuff that, because we had the parents had to, the father had to have supervised contact, but all the staff who supervised the contact, they couldn't fault this father because he had made so much change. And even when I was getting off the case, the father said, though he has done all the work and social services have given him the go ahead that he can see his children and partner unsupervised, he said,
Mm.
Nelly, I want to be 100% before I get fully involved. And it was really good because this man showed a lot of commitment. He was not staying in the town, he had to
Mm.
travel 3 hours each time to come and see his children for a maximum of 2 hours. That is real commitment. And at the end, me as a social worker to that family and to the children, I was really, really happy because I think that was one of the first cases that I've seen a man really committed. And he
Mm-hmm.
was really vulnerable. He didn't mind. He was really vulnerable and said, Nelly, I've got to the stage where I need help. I need help. And even my manager, every worker who got involved was really pleased, and because the man, he put in 100%. So those are some of the
Wow.
examples that you see how
Yeah.
parents, when they accept that they are at fault, they get the
Yeah.
support and they make the change. When they make the
Yeah.
change, it's not for social services, it is for the family, because they will improve on the family functioning and dynamics, and it will have a significant impact on the children's growth. So focusing on the children, when parents were separated, the children were exhibiting challenging behaviors. Even in school, there were one of the children would just scream and scream if she didn't get things her way. The other was using a lot of unacceptable language and hitting other children. But when the father started having contact with his children, it made a massive change. All of those
Difference.
behaviors that the children were displaying, it just vanished. It just
Yeah.
vanished. So again, I think children's services or social services are there to help, are there to
Mm-hmm.
help. But when
Yeah.
we become, or when parents or families become defensive, they don't get the support that can be offered to them.
That you really, that what you said there was really, really crucial, Nelly. Was really crucial because I feel that um well, I'm talking from the parent point of view. You are a parent as well, but then you are the professional as well. So you're talking with the parent as well as the professional lens. So again, I feel that sometimes, Nelly, we yes, I do accept that honesty is crucial, right? Honesty is crucial by accepting that, yes, something happened, I did something wrong, and I've learned from it, and it won't happen again, right? But then I've seen cases as well where maybe parents, so what I'm just trying to ask, is it okay, is it better to just admit, like for example, if the child goes to school and report that something is happening at home, or that the parent have done something, and then the social services are there, if they approach you, the parents, is it right to just admit or to deny it? Because I'm asking that reason, because sometimes parents have approached me like, you know what, my child said this, and should I say I did it, or should I deny it? What what do you think? Like, would that, who would they believe? Would they believe that child, or would they believe the parent?
Okay, so I mean, if the parent is, I'm just laughing because I've seen that a lot. So as parents, if say the child reports something to the teacher, the teacher will, I mean, if it's something that the teacher is worried about, they will speak to, or they'll make a referral, will speak to the child, because whatever we do, say children's services, we get the voice of the child, and the voice of the child is very important. So it is good for the parent to be open and honest from the beginning,
Okay.
because if the parent is open and honest to say, yes, this happened, but probably the child interpreted it in a different way because of their age, their level of understanding, then the social worker will understand. But if the parent categorically said, no, nothing like that happened, it's already like, how then has that child made up such a statement? And probably the child has said that same thing over and over without changing their narration. So obviously, there's an aspect of truth in what the child is saying. So then the social worker will focus on what the child is saying, but then question a lot about the parents' engagement with the services. And then
Mm.
certain things that parents start getting in trouble is, for instance, there is a meeting to discuss the concerns, and parent gives an excuse that they cannot attend for one reason or the other, or some they will accept to the invitation but then do not turn up and things like that. As a social worker, we will start thinking, is that parent being defensive? Are they being avoidant? Are they just trying to cover up? So because the parent is not being honest from the onset, social workers start having questions, and then you see how that builds up. Because if social workers are having questions around the parents, honesty, it will then go to parental capability. If this parent is not able to be honest to professionals, how then does she or he parent the children? Are they being honest with their children? What do they tell the children? So many other questions start coming up, which probably little things that could have been overlooked. A lot of emphasis will then be placed on it to really understand what is going on. And then probably speaking with neighbors, depending on the case, speaking with neighbors, just gathering information all around. And probably it could be that there's nothing apart from what the child has said, or probably a lot more information that is against the parent will be discovered. So, and it is not only what the child says, there's different activities that social workers do with children that focuses on how the child feels at home. Where does the child feel safe? Is it in school?
Mm.
Is it at home? If the child is at home and things happen, who can they talk to? In school, do they know someone that they can talk to if they are worried at home and things like that? So there's a lot that will be done with the child to gather more information, and most especially the impact of that behavior at home on the child.
Wow. That is really important. And honestly, that answers a lot of, because I do feel that I think it's time for parents to own up, to start owning up. I wish many people could just hear your response that you've given, because I feel that sometimes, because human instinct, when you do something, human nature, that first instinct is, first of all, no, let me say that white lie. Let me just lie that it didn't happen. But I've seen time and so many cases where it has actually landed these parents into trouble. That now bring me, you mentioned something which again I have noticed that is very, very crucial in terms of child safeguarding. Like once the social service now get involved, okay, I know you've said that when they come into your family for that first instance, do they assure, by policies or by social services policies, what do they do? Do they assure you, the parents, that they are not there to take your children, they are rather there to help you? Do they give that assurance to the parents?
So that depends because if the parent from the onset is not honest, I don't feel that a social worker will give that reassurance, because what are they reassuring for when the parent is not honest? So
Mm.
honesty is very important, because once you are honest and you say that yes, you did this, is a mistake, the social worker, depending on the case, if they feel that yes, you are being honest and you want to make that change, they will reassure you that if you work with them honestly, then your child will not be taken away. But if you want to be pretending, then I don't feel that any social worker will give that reassurance, because they are not sure. They're still gathering information to understand what is going on.
Mm.
So for
Oh.
me, openness, and you see, there's a lot of fear. You've talked about the responses, that instinct is because of fear. And again, with with the myth that a social worker gets into a home, that's the first thing parents think about, that oh, they're coming to take my child and things like that. But from the onset, depending on how engaging the parent is. Tell the parent that you as a social worker is not there to take the child, but what you expect is for parents to be open. Because like me as a social worker, I have my own, I have tried different ways of approaching families, and I came up with one that is suitable for me, and I've realized that it works for me. So on my very first visit to the family, I tell the family the reason why I'm working with them, and I say the way I work is I put in 100%, and I will expect the parent or the family to put in 100%, because
Mhm.
if they put in 99%, I'm sorry, it won't work. So I said, honesty is something that I really appreciate. I say, I don't make promises because I'll be relying on other services, and I cannot say that this service will be provided. So, which is why I do not make promises. But what I can assure is that I will put in 100% to make sure that I do what I can with the
Mm,
family. And because that is working with me, because like feedback that I've got from parents is that, oh, it seems as if you really want to help us to change our situation. So because that is
mm,
working with me and the families that I work with, I am using that. And majority of my cases, they really engage well. And we build a good working relationship, and even with the children as well. Sometimes I go there, they run to me and say, oh, Nelly, they give me a hug and things like that, which is really nice.
so that takes me back. So I'm just watching. Hi everybody. Welcome again to our second session. Sorry, we're just chatting our way, but we are seeing you. I think comfort actually said something. I think is regarding the question where I asked that when social services come into a family, do they reassure the parents that, or maybe do they tell the parents that, hey, we are here to support you, not to take your child away? I think in response to that, Comfort said no, they don't. So, but anyway, before we come to
Okay.
that, which I think maybe you've explained why some of them don't, but what you've just said there, Nelly, that comes down now to individual social workers. Because again, if you the way your approach that you take is more supportive, it's not punitive, because I feel that some social workers take the more punitive side, where they're like punishment, or like, you know what, I'm here, you know, if you don't respond, this is what I'm going to do, or I'm going to punish you because you did this, you did that, rather than saying that, although I'm here to protect this child, I am also here to support you as a family to make sure that you and the child, you are safe. So I do feel that the resistance that parents are having towards social workers is based on individuals, because not all social workers are that bad in terms of quote unquote. The way some families view social workers, not all of them. Some of them, okay, look at your relationship with the families. They hug you, they appreciate you, they're looking forward to seeing you. But unlike some other families, where when they know that social workers are coming, it's like a nightmare. In fact, they don't sleep the day before. So so do you agree with me that I feel that yes, it may be down to individuals, to the mindset, or to the approach that individuals are taking towards families?
Okay. I will say, because I said some time ago, I said social work is risk averse, which means they focus on risk. Going back to your question, I will say 100% yes, that it goes down to the individual social worker, because some social workers, they go by the book, but as individuals,
Yeah.
where is the humanity? We work with people, and we need to bring the human side of it, not just the training or the information that we get from training. So yes, 100%. it goes back to the individual social worker and their practice, because some, like you said, some practices are very punitive and not supportive, which myself as a social worker, I have questioned that. I have questioned my managers that, are we being supportive or are we being punitive to a particular case? So it goes down to the individual. But as a social worker, because you advocate for the families you work with or the individual you work with, imagine if you're advocating for someone and you already at the beginning are against that person. It is obvious that first, the relationship, like you said, the relationship is already, is, you won't build a good working relationship, because
Yeah.
you've said when people know that social workers are coming, they don't sleep. And
Yeah.
with in that line, sometimes social workers, I mean, I've heard this from social workers, that I cannot imagine that I'm going for a visit and the house is just messy. To me, what I say to the families that I work with, I say, listen, don't clean your house when you know I'm coming. I say, I just want to come and see you, how you live in your house. But some social workers have made it that parents need to clean the house because a social worker is coming. So again, it goes down to that conversation. What kind of conversation are you having with the families? Because when social workers want families to keep the house tidy, everything okay, children to be in their best behaviors when they visit, then we're not having a, a good picture or the real picture of that family and the family lifestyle, or the
Yeah.
day-to-day life. And those are some of the things, because so social workers like that will focus on the punitive aspect and not necessarily the supportive aspect of it, which I feel that a lot of social workers need to be focusing on the supportive aspect and not just the punitive side. Though again, some social workers, they go by the book and they say they need to do this because sometimes there's pressure from top, from the management, that things need to be done this way, that way. But if you've built a good relationship with families, you can stand and vouch for those families because you have understood them. But again, that will be if you are able to build a good relationship with families. Because there've been cases where I have stood and talked to my manager. I've gone against my manager's decision because I have worked with the family, I know the family, and I have been advocating for the family. But it's not every social worker who has the courage to do that, because some social workers just want to do what the managers have asked them. And that goes back to their personal
Yeah.
experiences,
Yeah.
whereby some don't
Absolutely.
want to go against their managers because they want to be. So yes, 100%, it goes down to the individual social worker.
Yeah. That is so true. And that actually comes with a question that Priska is asking. It says some social workers come into homes with preconceived ideas about our race. Some African parents do not know they can be supported to parent their children. And I do agree with that statement, because again, coming down to that perception where social services was created for the poor families, they do see some minority communities, like because of their race, they just have that preconception that when they come into your house, they come with the notion that, hey, you're not looking after your child, you're not taking care of your child, you've been abusing your child. So they come in with that preconceived notion, which again, I feel that, just like what you said, if they're coming with that preconceived notion about you, the parent, then that is where the relationship starts to break, even from the beginning, because they're seeing you from a different lens. They haven't even had the time to have a conversation with you to know who you are, what you do, and how what you what care you're giving to your children. And then once they come with that tick boxes, with that preconceived notion, and they're just going to be going through one direction, which again is that punitive, which that is what we're saying, that it is not right, because I feel this is where social services have to change their mindset in order to build a good relationship with families, to know, so that families should not, because they've made it in such a way now that some people don't even want to hear the name social services. I know parents that when you have a conversation with them and mention social services, they can have like, you know what, they don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really true, because some families, when they hear social services, they just become so angry. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that case. I've been in that situation where a case was allocated to me, a case of 4 children. I made several attempts to visit that family. And on the fourth attempt, I entered the home. It was during COVID. And unfortunately for me, I forgot my mask in the car. So as I entered, there were 8 people in the house, and all of them talked to me at the same time. And I was like, oh, sorry. Because they were like, oh, you social workers, you think that you can just walk in someone's house without a mask? And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I've just left. I've forgotten my mask in the car. And I said, okay, let me go get my mask. They said, no, 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 you're here now. You can as well just stay. I said, no, I'm going to get my mask. I went, got my mask, came. As I sat, all of them, 8 people in the house at the same time, they were talking at me. And this was the first time I've met this family. So as they were talking, they were not talking, they were shouting at me, just talking
Mm.
about social services. And I was like, I couldn't even hear what any of them were saying, because they were so loud and all of them were talking at the same time. So as I sat quiet, I was thinking of what to do. I was there on my own. So what I did was, I stood up, I jumped, and I screamed in a loud voice. I said, stop. And then it took them by surprise, because I'm not sure they were expecting that. Myself, I was not expecting that. So all
Mm-hmm.
of them stopped. And I said, listen, you don't even know me. I don't know you, though I know some of you in your record, what I've read. But
Mm-hmm.
I've come here. Let's talk. I just want us to talk. Let me understand. I say, okay, from the way you all are talking, you're angry about something, but unless you explain that to me, I will not know. So because when I went, I printed the one of the plans.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, this is what I've come with. So what is it? So they started telling me how they are not happy with social services because of one reason or the other. I said, okay, it's good. This is the report that is there. What I can do is, because I've gone off the report, I say, yes, I have read the report. I know you on paper, but I want to know you as a person and not
Yeah.
just on paper. Because you are more than what's on the pavement. And they were like, this is not correct. This needs to be amended and things like that. I said, okay, I will take this back to my manager and I will make note of all the points that they have talked about. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll go. So as I went back, my manager was even surprised, because the previous social worker had been allocated the case for like 6 months, and she was not able to see the children. But I went, and the good thing at that visit was that at the end, we were laughing. And that's just what I wanted, because
Yeah.
I felt that it was a first visit, yes, but we were able, it started off very, very tense, but at the
Yeah.
end, we were talking and laughing. And then the mother, it was then I realized that the mother was dyslexic. So when we were sending text messages and reports, she doesn't read them because she can't read. She is dyslexic.
Mm.
So then I took all of that
Mm.
information back to my manager. I said, listen, we have been blaming this family for non-engagement, but this is the issue. This is the issue. And then it was a nice one. So it's just how you approach the family, and it's
Yeah.
got to do with the individual social worker.
Yeah, no, that is right. That is, I do support. I do actually agree with that. And Priska says the public needs to be educated about social services, in my opinion, which I do 100% agree with you, Priska. A lot of people, the public actually needs to be educated, especially the minority communities, because where we are coming from, we don't even know much about social services. We have our own culture, we have our own system, the way things run, so we come into an environment where everything is new. And that is why sometimes when things are even happening, we are defending ourselves, defending that thing, rather than we don't even know how to engage. We don't even know how to even defend ourselves in the right way. So I feel that it is very, very important for the public to be educated. And this is why this awareness that we are doing is very, very crucial. So I don't know, Nelly. I'm just thinking, looking at time. Maybe there are few. Did you want to say something before we jump onto a few myths? I know there are a lot of them, but we're just going to touch on a
Yeah,
few myths.
yeah. Let me just say something with what Priska has said. Yes, I agree. We need to raise awareness around social services because the public needs to know what social services are all about, and especially with the Afro Caribbean community. Because coming back from our background, we see social workers as people in authority. And if we look back, our parents were a authority figures. So if a social worker comes and they say whatever they say, a lot of Afro-Caribbean families, they say yes, without even understanding what has been presented to them.
Mm-hmm.
Some agree that yes, they'll do this, that, and whatever, but they fail to realize that you have a right to disagree with certain actions that are put there because it's pointless for you to agree to an action that you know you will not do. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of education and empowerment, especially for the Afro Caribbean community, because like Priska talked about a point before that parents do not know they can. So again, that cultural competence comes in because the way different families and generally like the African families, the way parents bring up their children is very different from the way those in the whites bring up their own children. So
Yeah.
cultural competence is something that needs to come in. People need to be aware of, and especially like people from the African community, they need to know their rights. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that they need to be just be arguing about things that they are right. No, you need to know, understand the system because
Yeah.
the system, the British society is very different from our African communities where we come from. Because like we talked when we did the launch that we children walk to school at very young ages, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case in the UK.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of education that people from the African community need to know about, and most especially those who are just migrating. Though again, some who have migrated, who have lived in the UK, they still don't know. And then they get into unnecessary trouble because
Mm-hmm.
if, say, a child discloses information in school and parents are called, then parents will want to be defensive. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
once I was called in school when my daughter went to school and was saying that they were left at home. And I mean, she was just saying in order to, she didn't even know that she was saying anything wrong. But she spoke to the receptionist when they were having a conversation. And then the next day we were called to the principal's office. We went there and they were asking because at that time I was going through a lot. I couldn't
Yeah.
even offer a word. I was just crying. I was just crying because there was so much that I was going
Yeah.
through, but I couldn't say it. But then all the blame came on me. And I was
Yeah.
just so upset because I went to work and everyone at home knew that I was going to work, but then it came on me and I was just in that state where I couldn't even express myself and I just cried
Yeah.
the whole time. So we need to be aware that we need to stand for ourselves, our
Yeah.
children. Let's not just focus on ourselves that we want to keep our children, because if we think of it in the first place that social services become involved with families because of what families are doing, then I think it's high time for families to start thinking of the positive changes that they need to make. Because if it's not for the behaviors or the incidents in the family, social services will not be involved in the first place. So for me,
Mm.
the go back to is the family home.
Yeah.
We as parents, adults, need to start making this awareness, need to start finding out what is it that we are not doing right. And instead
Mm.
of blaming this person, that person, let's take upon ourselves, what do I need to change about me to improve on the family situation? Because if as a parent we respond to situations in a calm way, no matter how difficult it is, that's the same thing our children will copy, and
Yeah.
other family members. So for me, it goes back to the family, it goes back to the parents to take that responsibility. And for African families, please educate yourself, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the times is that African families, African people, we will prefer to sit and be gossiping about this person, that person, things that will not help us. Let's spend that time getting into know what is going out there so that we can improve ourselves, improve our children, improve our family situations, rather than
Yeah.
just talking about other people framing stories that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is absolutely right. That is absolutely right. So I don't know
Yeah, I
whether
think
what
Comfort,
Comfort
let me
just
just read what Comfort has said. Comfort has said some social workers are not supportive. I agree with that, Comfort. It's true. Some social workers are not supportive. And I think it goes back to what we talked about before about social workers being punitive, or are they being supportive, which some are being punitive, some use a punitive approach and they're not being supportive. So social workers as well, they need to improve on. They need to do not just the mandatory trainings, but
Mhm.
also their personal issues. Because a lot of the times, social workers, we go in there, we have our own issues going on back at home. When we
Yeah.
go and speak with families and they trigger what we are experiencing at home, we we become very defensive ourselves. And imagine we go to work with a family and we become defensive because whatever they've said have triggered us. Then who is supporting who? So
Yeah.
then when it gets to that stage, social workers will fall back on what the policies are, that they are the professional, they know more than the family. And it will be like a tit for tat, because it will be like, who is in a power of position now? They want to show power. But to me, that is not the approach that social workers need to take. We as social workers need to be supportive, because we are working with vulnerable people. They didn't choose to be in the situation they have found themselves, because of they are struggling with something, which is why
Yeah.
they have got to the level that they've gone into. And without that support, we will not be helping them to improve
Yeah.
on their situation. And that's why social services will just remain in that family's life, because they are not making any improvement. So social workers, I would say, take some responsibility as well to work on yourself as a person, so you improve your abilities to create good working relationships with families, so that you can effectively support this family, empower them, and not just doing things for them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Nelly, you as you're talking, there are a lot of questions coming out. In fact, that is going to be what our next topic. There's but I don't want to get myself here into trouble, but let me just ask a question and don't answer it if you can't. I'm just asking from the perspective of a parent, okay? Would is it okay for a social work somebody who hasn't got a child, do you think their approach as social worker to support a family will be the same as somebody who has got a child? Because I'm just saying from the point of view that as a social worker, if I'm going to a family's house and I know I've got a child and I know the challenges that children bring upon, and I know what it means to be a parent, if I go to support to another family, I already know what that family is going through because me myself, I'm a parent. But if I am not a parent, I've never had that experience to go through child tantrum, to go through all of those challenges, maybe I might not be able to support a family better. I don't know. Like I say, I'm not being kind of I'm not saying that people who are not parents shouldn't be social workers. The principle is there to follow, the practice is there to follow, but I just feel that coming from that humanistic and that supportive angle, I do feel that people who are social workers that are parents will maybe have that supportive approach more better than those who are not. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. So it varies because we focus on, or social workers do a lot of training.
Mhm.
Social workers do a lot of training. So there are not even when social services are doing they want to come up with a policy, there's much emphasis on the lived experiences, which
Mhm.
in a way will there's a point there in that question, because sometimes if you don't have a child, how will you know the experiences of a child who is having a
Mm.
tantrum? It might be, yeah, but we go off the knowledge base. But for me, I feel that experience is the best teacher. And if you
Mm.
have that experience of having a child, then you will know what it takes to have a child, to care for a child.
Yeah.
Because like I remember, I there was this family that I work with. This mother had 8 children, and I don't know if it was my bias because I have 4 children. I went into this house, and that day I visited with a social worker who doesn't have a child. And when we got there, she was like, "Oh, the house is too messy," and things like that. But to me, I didn't see it. Yes, it was messy, but I didn't consider it the way this other social worker did, because I was like, this is a single mom with 8 children, and the children are the oldest 14 years. So imagine, and I was like, obviously the house will not be clean like a parent with just one child or so. So
Mm.
yes, there's a point there in what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think again, maybe that is the other aspect of the social, I don't know, the practice that needs to be embedded in some of the social workers. We're not saying that if you don't have a child, don't be there are brilliant social workers who are not parent, brilliant. But I feel that that aspect
Yeah.
has to be communicated to them that look, this is what a normal typical parent or family will be going through. This is what children have, like these are the challenges that children pose on the parent, so that at least when they're going in there, they're going with the mindset knowing the challenges that these parents are facing as well, so that when they go there, they should be approaching the supportive side, not the punitive side. Right, so that said and done, I don't know whether Nelly, we just have, let's say, like 10 minutes to wrap up. Just 10 minutes, because I'm conscious you've got another appointment to go. So should we round up, or should we talk on 3 meets and then continue the meets in our next session?
I think I'll really appreciate it if we can round up, please.
Yes, okay, right. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, if you can round up for us, Nelly.
Okay. So for today, I mean, it's been it's been really good that we've been able to talk about some of the myths. We had a
Mhm.
lot of them, but we have just talked about a few. We started late because of technical issues, but we've even gone above the time. So
Yeah.
we have talked about the myth, the myth about social services. Social services, are they being punitive or they're being supportive? Which we've had discussions that some are bad. There's been more discussion that social, or the opinion that social workers need to develop personally so they are able to provide more supportive role that rather than punitive role. And without that building a good relationship, parents will not be able to get the support because first they don't even, some of them don't know their that when children services become involved they will take their children away from them. So there's a lot more education on social workers to know about cultural differences, we call them cultural competencies. And also on the side of parents, open yourself up to learning because the the you growing up, say in Africa, the culture there is very different from that in the UK, and especially when it comes to children's services, or taking care of our children, safeguarding and protecting our children. We need, our children need adult supervision from babies to 18 years. So
Mhm.
parents take that responsibility to learn the system, to learn the safeguarding rules. Don't just do it for the sake of learning. Do it to improve on your family situation, your relationships, so that it will reduce the chances of your child going out there to look for safety. Because when, as parents, you stay at home arguing, children feel very, very unsafe at home, insecure at home, and they start wanting to go out. And that's a parent, in a way, pushing the child out, exposing them to the risk of exploitation, drugs, knife crimes, and so many other things. So it's for parents to take that time, take a step back, and learn what you need to learn to improve upon your family dynamics, yourself, and to bring up your child, your children, the way you want them to be respectable people in our society and make possible contributions, positive contributions in our society. I think from my end, that is what I have got to say. We have other
Thank
myths
you.
that we will continue at the next session in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nelly. That was the session today was quite informative. I am also learning, as a parent, learning a lot. So thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us today. Um, our next session will be in 2 weeks' time, and we're going to be coming with a topic of discussion. So please, if you do want us to talk about something specific, drop your suggestion in the comment section so that we can all discuss about it next time when we meet. Thank you guys for watching, and have a lovely evening, and keep learning. Keep learning, because your child, I know we all love our children, and we want the very, very best for them. And that begins with us as parents. We need to keep learning. Thank you so much, Nelly, for your time. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.